here's the kicker that I think gives you a little reason for optimism. I want to talk about the emotion here for a second. Maybe this is a good way to do it. Again, a million lines on the screen. I'll explain what this means. Most of the major Wall Street firms, or I shouldn't say most, a lot of them have kept their estimates the same. So in other words, by the end of May, did those same banks that predicted a good year for the market, did they want to change their answer? Right? So we're a little less than halfway through the year by the end of May. Did they want to change their answer? And more firms said, yeah, we want to change our answer. We think it's going to be better than we thought it was going to be. Versus only one, Wells Fargo, said, you know what, after May, we'd like to revise down. We don't think it's going to be as good as we did at the beginning of the year. So that goes to what I just talked about. We're in May, we're 2 months in to the war in Iran, right? By the end of May, we're 3 months into it. And more of these banks want to revise their forecast for the market upward than want to do it downward. And that speaks to optimism. So let's talk about optimism for a second. Right now, the average person is you can guess in your head. Do you think the average investor right now is optimistic or pessimistic? And the answer is overwhelmingly pessimistic. And I mean that very seriously. In June, and this chart is not in here, but I'll describe it to you. I'll put up just a blank screen behind me so I can describe it a little better. In June, there's an index out there called the Consumer Sentiment Index, which is just a survey that the University of Michigan does. It goes all the way back to the 70s, if not before. It's kind of considered in the economics world the standard for how are people feeling about the economy, just survey wise, right? It's not a hard data, it's just people actually get asked about it. That index, that survey, hit the lowest level on record in June, meaning people in June, and I don't know, it might stay there for July. I don't think the numbers are in for that yet, or even preliminary ones. But in June, the average person felt worse about the economy than they had ever felt in the history of the survey, than any group of people that were surveyed had. So, in other words, people felt worse last month than they did in the middle of the '08 recession. People felt worse last month than they did in the '70s with the gas crises and high inflation and low growth, than the dot-com bubble. I mean, worse than COVID as far as the economy goes, that's specific to the economy. And there's a couple things that I think we can take away from that. One is, and I don't want to call people's lived experience wrong because you're feeling that way for a reason, right? You're not making it up. That does not match the reality that we're seeing. Just on that last slide, you can see the banks don't feel that way. And I'm not saying the banks are always right, by the way, because they're definitely not. But the banks are feeling more optimistic than pessimistic.